Therefore, the more you know, the more responsible you become for what you know, and the greater the consequences will be for what you do with the information, the spiritual information that you're given. Some might say, well, then it's better for none of us to know anything, but that would be like saying, I want to remain a spiritual retard and not know anything and not grow spiritually, because that will shield me from having to pay greater consequences for my actions. But that would imply that you are committing spiritual suicide. You are preferring to remain a spiritual dwarf instead of growing, just because you're afraid of the consequences that will come upon your life. But another aspect that we have to consider here is the fact that God, when He issues His judgments, He issues them in two different categories, or at two different levels. There are the eternal consequences and there are the temporal consequences. And when we go to Matthew 6, for example, it says that we can have consequences that are manifested in this realm and consequences that will be manifested eternally. It says, and when you pray, this is Matthew 6 verse 5, and when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. So there are certain consequences that will be seen in the natural realm and some in the eternal realm. If you operate seeking natural recognition, you will have your reward here on earth, but you will have nothing eternally. But if you seek the eternal reward, you might not seem like you're getting rewarded the way you should be in the natural realm, but God will reward you spiritually for eternity. So it is better to take the risk of receiving bigger and more drastic consequences in this realm than to wait for the judgment to come until the end of your life. Because if you are judged until the end, there is no redemption, there is nothing, and you will suffer an eternal price. If you are judged here in this realm, then there is an opportunity for redemption, and you can rescue eternal reward if you are judged in this realm. And that is the spiritual reason why, even though it seems unfair, the old prophet was not killed, and he continued living, but the man of God, who had been given these clear instructions and who disobeyed them, was immediately killed by God. In the eternal realm, even though the man of God who went to Bethel failed in his mission, he will have a bigger and a better eternal reward than the old prophet, despite the fact that he was killed by God earlier. Now, and just to add to that, let's go to Hebrews chapter 12, a passage that's well known by many, and it talks about the types of relationships, that son-father relationships that we can have with God. It says, let's read from verse 3 onwards. Verse 3. It says, "Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. In your struggle against sin you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. And have you forgotten the exhortation that addresses you as sons? My son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor be weary when reproved by him. For the Lord disciplines the ones he loves, and chastises every son whom he receives. It is for discipline that you have to endure. God is treating you as sons. For what son is there whom his father does not discipline? If you are left without discipline, in which all have participated, then you're illegitimate children and not sons. Besides this, we have had earthly fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them. Shall we not much more be subject to the Father of spirits and live? So here it's saying that when God takes you as a son, He disciplines you, He reproves you, and the judgments come more immediately than they do to people whom He has rejected. And it says here, they kind of, in this translation, put it in a nicer tone, but in the King James Version and in the Greek, it says here that in which all of you have participated, then you are illegitimate children, not sons. In the original text, it's more clearly translated as then you are bastards and not sons. In other words, if you are not judged, if you do not like to receive correction from the Father, then you are a spiritual bastard. And so people who prefer not to know more information, who want to stay in ignorance and want to create this bubble around them that will prevent judgments from coming into their lives or any sort of confrontation to make them grow, these people become spiritual bastards. And it might seem like they're not being judged the way they should be judged, but that is because God has forsaken them altogether. It's like an abandoned building that no one wants to invest any more time in and any more money, because it's going to be destroyed anyway. So it is much better to learn and to suffer as a consequence of having learned than to have never learned at all. And you can see that principle when it comes to the sons of Israel. When the Israelites rejected Jesus and rejected the Messiah and chose Barabbas over Jesus, a judgment came over them. And as you know, they suffered for 1,800 years the consequences of what they did during the time that the Lord Jesus was on earth, which was in a sense a culmination of disobedience that had been running throughout the many centuries. And other races or other groups of people whom God has not chosen as the chosen race, the ones from whom the Messiah would come, these other races have probably done less heinous crimes or heinous sins than the Jewish people, and they have not been judged as severely as the Jewish people. But that is because God has taken the Jewish people unto Himself, and because of that they became much more accountable for their actions than other races that had been, in a sense, separated from Him for a season until when the Lord Jesus came, and then the God of Israel became immediately accessible to all races. But so that is the reason why the man of God was killed immediately by God, and the other man, the old prophet who had led to the death of this man, was not judged immediately himself. Now,